and also multiplicative identity and multiplicative inverse. Now, friends, in a simple language, what is additive identity? For which we have to understand the word additive. Additive means it is used for addition. Therefore, these two belong to some operations of addition. And here, multiplicative identity and multiplicative inverse means they have something to do with multiplication. Okay. So let's start with our additive identity. Additive identity in a simple terms it is zero, or you can write in words zero. Zero is an additive identity because it remains if it is added to some number, the number remains unchanged. Means the number itself remains in the end because we add 0 to it. Therefore 0 is an additive identity. Now the main thing that we have to understand is this additive inverse. Additive inverse is a number. Additive inverse is a number when added added to a given number, the sum becomes 0. That is 0. This is additive inverse. Means additive inverse is a number when added to a given number, their sum becomes 0. Suppose you have been given your given number is 2. Now you have to add something here so that the result becomes 0. So obviously it is minus 2 which should be added so that the sum becomes 0. So the additive inverse of 2 is minus 2. So in simple terms it is called additive inverse, is also called the opposite number. And what is the difference between the number and its additive inverse? The difference is just that of a sign. 2 is positive number, so it is minus 2, that will be additive inverse of plus 2. It is also called a negation, opposite number, negation. All these are the names of additive inverse. For now, let's take some numbers and let's see what their additive inverse are. We have already seen plus 2 has minus 2 as its additive inverse. In the same way, minus 3's additive inverse would be 3. Minus 4.5 additive inverse would be plus 4.5. 0.5 additive inverse would be minus 0.5. 2 by 3 additive inverse would be minus 2 by 3. Okay, here you have to understand that the difference is that only of sign. If it is positive, it is negative only. No numerator, denominator, vice versa. Additive inverse, the sign remains that of only, the difference remains that of only signs, not the numerator becomes denominator and denominator becomes numerator. That is not like that way. Additive inverse is the same number, just opposite in sign only. For example, x is your number, given number, additive inverse would be minus x. For additive inverse of x upon 3, additive inverse would be minus x by 3. Okay. For the given number a into b, your additive inverse would be minus a into b. Okay. For given number is say minus y, additive inverse would be plus y. Okay. So the difference is that of only of sign. Okay. Only opposite you have to take, means if the number is given as 2, your additive inverse would be minus 2. Okay, just you have to put the opposite sign before that additive inverse, and you will be getting, when you add these numbers, you will get your sum as additive identity, that is 0. So additive inverse is a number when added to a given number the sum becomes 0. And these are various examples from where you can understand how additive inverse is like. One more example, let's say your given number is minus a by b upon 3x. So additive inverse would be plus a by b by 3x. Nothing you have to do, just to take the sign as opposite of the given number. That will be your additive inverse. Okay, so additive identity is 0, and additive inverse means when a number is added to a given number it becomes 0, that means additive identity, then it will be called the additive inverse. It is also called the opposite number or the negation of the number. Okay, and various examples we have seen here. Now come to the point multiplicative identity. Just as we have seen earlier in the very beginning that additive identity and additive inverse has something to do with addition, here multiplicative identity and multiplicative inverse has to do with multiplication. And what is multiplicative identity? It is 1. Multiplicative identity is 1. Identity means when you do multiplication with that number, your answer remains unchanged. So if you multiply 1 with 2, your answer would be 2. Okay, so with any number you multiply 1, suppose you are multiplying minus 0.5 into 1, answer would be minus 0.5 itself. So when multiplicative identity is multiplied with the given number, it remains unchanged. That's why it is called multiplicative identity, and our multiplicative identity is 1. Now come to the multiplicative inverse. Multiplicative inverse is runs on the same concept, that multiplicative identity is a number when multiplied. Here you have to do the operation of multiplication. Here we did added, here multiplied to a given number. The product, here the sum was discussed. Now we have to discuss the product becomes multiplicative identity, and that is 1. See, additive inverse is a number when added to a given number the sum becomes 0, and multiplicative identity is a number when multiplied to a given number the product becomes 1. Okay, and it is also called reciprocal of the number or inverse of the number. Okay, now let's take some examples. We have been given some numbers, and we have to see what their multiplicative inverses are. Okay, suppose, now let's take these examples only, where here we have taken 2 minus 3 minus 4.5, then 0.5, 2 by 3, x, x by 3, ab minus y minus ab by 3x. Okay, the same examples we shall take to see what are their multiplicative inverses are. Now we need answer as 1. So what should be multiplied with 2 so that answer becomes 1? It is obvious that it should be multiplied with 1 by 2. Okay, so multiplicative inverse would be 1 by 2. See, you need answer as 1, and that would only be got by when numerator and denominator gets cancelled. So the trick is to suppose 2 is the given number, that means 2 by 1. 2 is what? 2 by 1. So your multiplicative inverse would be 1 by 2. Okay. Here the sign remains change. In additive inverse, we did change in sign only. Here we have to take the sign unchanged. Means if the given number is positive, in multiplicative inverse would be positive only. Okay, if the given number is negative, multiplicative inverse would be negative also. Okay, here you have to make the numerator as denominator and denominator as numerator. So 2's multiplicative inverse is 1 by 2, and then only we can say that 1 1 cancel, 2 2 cancel, and answer is 1. And what is the multiplicative inverse would be of that of minus 3? It would be minus 1 by 3. Suppose minus 3 is here, minus 3 means it is minus 3 by 1. Now when you take minus 1 by 3, then only it will give result give you the result 1, because minus minus would be plus, 3 3 cancelled, 1 1 cancelled, so nothing remains, that means 1 remains. Multiplicative inverse of minus 4.5 would be minus 1.45. Now here you have minus 4.5, that means it is minus 4.1, 4.5 by 1. So your multiplicative inverse would be 1 upon minus 4.5. Then only you will be. Now 1 by minus 4.5 or minus 1.45 or minus sorry, let me write here. These three are the same numbers, only the way of writing is different only. Okay, you can write 1 by minus 4.5 or minus 1 by 4.5, or put the sign here in the middle between them and write 1.45. The result is same. So minus 4.5's multiplicative inverse would be minus 1.45. 0.5's multiplicative inverse would be 1 upon 0.5. 2 by 3's multiplicative inverse would be 3 by 2. See, multiplicative inverse has nothing to do with the change of sign. Where additive inverse has the only thing that is to be done is to change the sign. But in multiplicative inverse, you don't have to change the sign. You have to change the numerator as denominator and denominator as numerator. X's multiplicative inverse would be 1 by x. X by 3 is 3 by x. AB 1 by AB. Where there is no denominator in the given number, that means it is the denominator of 1. Okay, because we don't have the practice to write the denominator 1 separately, so it is understood AB is AB upon 1. So multiplicative inverse would be 1 by AB. Multiplicative inverse of minus y would be minus 1 by y, and multiplicative inverse of this number would be minus 3x by AB. Okay, so in additive inverse you have to change the sign only, the number remains the same. But in multiplicative inverse you don't have to change the sign, the sign remains same, only the numerator becomes denominator and denominator becomes numerator. For example, there should be a tricky one also. Let's now try to understand the additive inverse. Let's now try to find out the additive inverse of minus 3 1 by 2. Both additive inverse also and multiplicative inverse also. Minus 3 1 by 2. Simple is additive inverse, you just have to change the sign. It would be plus 1 by 3 2. 3 1 by 2, sorry. Minus 3 1 by 2's additive inverse would be this, plus 3 1 by 2. But for multiplicative inverse, you just can't do this, that minus 3 2 by 1. No, it is not like that. This is a mixed number, so you have to convert them into first improper fraction. So simplify this. It would be 3 to the 6 plus 1, 7 by 2. And multiplicative inverse would be minus 2 by 7. Okay. Here also you can convert it into minus 7 by 2. So additive inverse would be plus 7 by 2. And multiplicative inverse would be minus 2 by 7. So these are the basic concepts of our mathematics: multiplicative identity, additive identity, multiplicative inverse, and additive inverse. In simple term, additive identity is 0, and additive inverse is something that when added gives the result as 0. Multiplicative identity is the number 1, and multiplicative inverse is something that when multiplied with a given number gives the answer as 1. Okay. In the additive inverse, you have just to change the sign. That's why it's called also opposite and negation number. In multiplicative inverse, you don't have to do anything with the sign. The sign remains same as that of the given number. The thing that you have to do in multiplicative inverse is to change the numerator as denominator and denominator as numerator. For mixed number, you have to convert them into improper fraction first to get multiplicative inverse. Okay. So these are all about these basic concepts of maths. Hope you have understood it very well, and these things are applied in almost every example of maths where these basic operations needed to be carried out. Hope this video would be useful for all of you, and I would like if you share these tricks or these explanation with your classmates also, so that everyone is benefited from this endeavor of mine. Thank you.